Thank you, Gabriella. Describe the indescribable. That's our topic today. Describe the indescribable. Each one of you has an indescribable story inside of you. It's your story. It's unique to you. And today, as we come together in this Empower meeting, I hope that we gain more confidence as we prepare for public speaking, and we look forward to describing the indescribable, your story. What's in your heart? Describe the indescribable. Well, my goal today is two-part, so get your pens and paper ready. Number one, I want to unpack for you 3 key questions that we as public speakers, you that are involved in the world of leadership, need to keep not only in your mind, but you need to keep in your heart as you present to people. Second of all, as we're all here in Toastmasters, I want to give you 3 takeaways, 3 things that you can use in every Toastmaster meeting. Are you ready? Yes. All right, let's get going. So I heard these 3 key questions, first from a college football Hall of Famer, Lou Holtz. And he said this, that he was looking at his team, the athletes, and he, the head coach. These 3 key questions were important to how he was going to communicate and to connect with his team. Number 1 question. Can I trust you? Can I trust you? Students coming into the big auditorium with the professor, athletes lining up on the field, mentor and mentee getting together for the first time. Can I trust you? Can you trust me as a presenter today? That's a big question that people have in the back of their minds. Can I trust you? The second question that Lou Holtz unpacks as he looks at not only communicating, but connecting with his team. Are you committed? Are you committed? Do you walk the talk, or do you just talk the walk? Are you committed to my success? Are you committed to my goals and my dreams? Are you committed to my family and what's important to me? Are you committed? Big question. But the third question is so important. In fact, I believe that every single human person walking on the planet has these words branded on their forehead. And you know what those words are? Do you care about me? Do you care about me? Because every single human person wants to be loved, wants to be wanted, wants to be cared about, to be appreciated, to be respected. Every single person on this earth wants to be cared about. And you come into this environment, you come onto the team, you come into this organization. Do you care about me? Keep that in your hearts as you present to a group of people, small or large, at the workplace, in the grocery store. Do you care about me? So what I'd like to do is take you on the road. And over the last 9 months, I've been on the road again, talking to different groups. And I've been learning from these questions how important it is to connect with the audience. So let's go back to that first question. Can I trust you? And I want to go to Staten, Oregon. My first speaking engagement of the new year was at Immaculate Conception Church in Staten, Oregon. And I was to be the inspirational speaker for the women's group and their brunch for the new year. And I was really excited about looking forward to hanging out with these ladies. So I did what every good public speaker did. get there early, get to know your environment, get settled into the community that you're with. And as I walked in the church door, and I walked right in, I encountered a gentleman that I knew. I had interviewed him before on Catholic radio with his students. And so I saw Joe, and we immediately connected. And here I am in Staten, where I live in Northeast Portland. So he's kind of wondering, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm going to be speaking to the ladies a little bit later in the morning. And all of a sudden, the mood changed, and he kind of grabbed my arm, and he said, can you pray with me about something? I mean, I've got something really difficult going on in my life. And I said, sure. And so all of a sudden, he shared with me something pretty intense that was happening in his personal life. And so as I carried that pain in my heart the rest of the morning and started to get ready for my talk with the ladies, I realized I wasn't there that day to talk to the ladies at the Women on the Well luncheon. I was at that place to be present because I have built a level of trust with the community. And because I was present, that indescribable moment with Joe happened. Lesson number 1. So, can I trust you? Very important that there is trust and you build relationship. The second question that Lou Holtz talks about is, are you committed? Are you committed to me, my goals, my heart when you come into this group? Are you committed? So I want to take you to Beaverton, Oregon. There's a beautiful retreat center that's called Our Lady of Peace. And over the next 12 months, I will be speaking every other month there on a Wednesday evening, doing twilight talks with Dina Marie, and really having a beautiful time with this community and the public coming and just having a night of reflection. So on a Wednesday night, I got there about 4 hours early so I could prepare and just get settled in again, get to visit with the community and get ready for this evening talk. And so I was able to have dinner with the community, and some of the people attending that dinner were going to be staying for the talk. And so we were visiting a little bit and talking, and then everybody asked, well, Dina Marie, what's your topic going to be? What are you going to talk about tonight? And so I shared a little bit, and I said, well, the title is Transitions and Epiphanies. And the gentleman sitting right next to me, Paul, he said, well, that's pretty interesting because 9 months ago I lost my job. And it's been really difficult. He's a little bit older. It's been tough out there in the job market. I don't know if I should go this way or that way. Should I stay in this career? Should I go into a brand new industry? It's really a challenge. I'm hopeful, but sometimes it's not so easy. And I inside chuckled and I thought, Paul, this talk is going to be just for you. An indescribable moment that at a moment you know that there's a reason why you are there. So then, as I get ready to go into that talk in that hall, I knew Paul's story, I knew Charlie's story, I knew Leanne's story, I know Rocio's story, I know the community that I'm speaking with, and now we can unpack our story together. And as a speaker, you're able to weave whatever you're going to share into the lives of the people around you. And isn't that an indescribable moment? That you can connect with the Malias and the Avelines and the Dougs of the world and get to know that we're committed to one another. Yes, I'm committed. I'm committed to share my story, my vulnerability to you in an audience. Are you committed? Big question as we prepare to share in any leadership situation. But the third question, That third question, do you care about me? Everybody wants to know. And have you heard the quote before? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I've heard that quote so many times. And if you haven't heard it before, write that down. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. What's coming from your heart? So let's go back to Staten and back into that room, this parish hall, and we were having a luncheon, and the energy in the room was so high. These ladies were just having a wonderful time, lots of fellowship, lots of high energy, lots of hopefulness and joyfulness in the room. And I was able to unpack for them my snowball effect story, my transition story. And as I connected with the different women that I was speaking with that morning, I noticed over here, every time I would look, this woman was physically involved in the talk. Something was grabbing her emotionally about what I was sharing. And every time I saw her, I could tell there was something deep moving in her heart. In fact, she was weeping. And I kept looking over at her. She was right there to me in the room. And so at the end of that talk was a time for a social break, and we just were able to visit. The luncheon was coming up, and so I talked with some of the women. But then I got to meet Adriana. And Adriana came up to me, and Adriana shared that something that she heard spoke right to her, and that it gave her hope for the difficulties that she was facing in her life. Some issues with her daughter, some issues with her family life. And she said, but I'm so hopeful. I know things are going to work out. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And she continued to open up the journey that she was experiencing in her own life. See, that's an indescribable moment. That's a moment that happens when people know, I care about you. I'm here along with you on this journey. And Adriana knew that she could come up and share with me her story, and that I would keep it right here. And now she's on my prayer list that I continue to pray for. In fact, she gave me another prayer request this morning as I let her know I was going to be on the road this week. And so she's praying for me. Isn't that a gift? Can I trust you? Are you committed? And do you care about me? Keep those questions in your heart in any leadership position that you have. They will become the indescribable moments that you will have in your life. But I promised some tips and techniques as well, didn't I? So this is the icing on the cake. It's my favorite part of cake or cookies, icing. And Juliana's auntie makes the best icing around. Icing on the cake. I like to call this my CIA approach to Toastmasters. CIA. C, committed. Get committed. Get committed to Toastmasters. And what I see that as being is coming to this meeting early, getting to know other people, staying a little bit late, listening to this community, and getting to know one another. Get committed to this organization. I, of the CIA, involved. Get involved. I was telling Juliana as we were driving here today, I said, Juliana, there's roles for every single thing that happens on the agenda. And that means that all of us have the opportunity to be present and to participate in every meeting. And in fact, if there's a role, like grammarian for me, that makes you a little shaky and nervous, do that role. Do the roles that stretch you and get involved and get connected with this community so that you can grow. And the third one is A, aware. We are here in this Toastmasters group to learn how to speak. But we did receive one mouth and two ears for a reason. And that's because listening is so important. And so, yes, we're going to speak up here on this stage, but listening to one another, listening to the dialogue, listening to those table topics and what comes from people's hearts are key. And so that is being aware. Being aware of this environment, being aware of the energy that's going on, be aware of your surroundings. And then you'll know how to contribute so that you will have those indescribable moments. CIA, committed, involved, and aware. So in closing, I really hope that by unpacking these 3 key questions that Coach Lou Holtz lines out for us will stay in your heart and help you be prepared as you present to communities and groups such as Toastmasters. But also that CIA approach will help you so that we together, we can be empowered and we can be involved and engaged in an environment like this that will encourage each and every individual to effectively speak, lead, and grow. And after all of what I said, you think about public speaking and you still get your knees knocking and you break out into a cold sweat, remember these words from Coach Lou Holtz, who reminds us, no one has ever drowned in sweat. Mrs. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good morning. 3 things I'm going to be projecting and talking to you about today. 3 words. Or letters, EAS. They stand for energy, authenticity, and the third one, can you guess it? S?
Sexy.
I love it. Story. Every good speech has a great story. If you would like to come up here, I know everybody does, that's why we're here, but to be the most powerful speaker that you can be, those 3 words, I think, in my opinion, need to come out. I'll give you an example. I was in a group called LaTip about 10 years ago. LaTip is a leads group or a referral group that you go and you kind of give speeches like this about your career. I got up and within the first 2 minutes, I drew a total blank. I mean, a total blank. And it was a fear moment where I actually just said, sorry, I can't do this. And I went down and I sat down. It was the most horrific, embarrassing thing I've ever done. Luckily, there was only like 5 people in the audience. I mean, can you believe if it was like, you know, audience of this size or 50 or 500? Anyway, I swore I'd never do that again. So the first word is energy. Okay, think of it like this, EAS, ease or easy, to become and have the most powerful speeches that you can do. Energy. You don't have to come up here and think, oh, I gotta give a lot of energy and I'm gonna be a powerful speaker and I'm gonna be woohoo up here. You have your own energy. I know it. I've seen every one of you and I've seen myself. I come up here and I'm holding something and, oh my God, can they see me shaking here? Right? We've all been there. Transfer that energy. Transfer that energy to the audience because that's what you guys want to see. That's what you want to connect with me, is my energy, because you're projecting yourself up on here. It's not about me, it's about you. So the second word, oh, and the other thing I want to talk about energy is that you don't have to be up here like I said, you know, projecting yourself out. You can just be like this and have a lot of energy. You guys hear and understand that and get that. It keeps you engaged. The second is authenticity. A stands for authenticity. You've heard it a million times, be yourself, be yourself. We try to be ourselves so much, but there's so many people in our lives that say, you know what, you should do this, or why don't you do that? And then we lose ourselves in other people and what we think we should be. Especially when we're up here, we think, well, I have to please everybody. BS, you don't have to. I'm probably going to lose half the audience, maybe even right now. I'm okay with that. If I'm myself, I might lose half of you, but that energy from the other half that doesn't like me will transfer to the people that really dig me and like me. That being said, authenticity is it. You've got to be yourself. Who cares what people think about you? It's about them, not you. I'm having a moment here. Blank screen. Okay, story. The third thing is about story. You've got to have a great story. I'm going to give you two great stories that we can talk about here. Give me some energy, guys. Okay. I'm not used to crowds this big. Okay. I'm going to give you the first story. When I was 12 years old, I had a bike, and it was an old rickety bike. And this bike, I rode around on the streets in Portland here, and I was delivering newspapers. Okay. This bike sucked. It had the old handlebars, and it didn't have any. And at the end of the handlebars were nothing but the ends of the aluminum. Remember those? Okay. Rickety seat, rickety chain. And I used to ride this thing around on my paper route. And I hated it. But I swore to my parents and my mom, and my sisters that I was going to buy a Schwinn Stingray. Remember those, if you're old enough? Schwinns were like, oh my God, I have to have a Schwinn. I bought the Schwinn. It had the brand new banana seat. Remember those? It had the big sissy bar in the back. And I was so proud of myself that I bought this Schwinn Stingray. And I'm riding it around on this hot summer day here in Portland. And I saw the steam coming off the street as I was riding the bike because it was a hot summer day, but it actually had rained a couple hours before, 15 minutes before. And I'm riding down the street, and remember the smell of fresh rain on a hot summer day street on the pavement? I mean, it's not great, but you can remember that, and it makes you feel good. And I remember riding by Mr. Laughlin's house. Mr. Laughlin, when I was 4 years old, I went up to him with my mom and I said, have you been sleeping in the grass? And my mom and Mr. Laughlin looked at each other and they said, no, Tommy, why? I said, because you have all those wrinkles in your face. Never forget that. So I don't think Mr. Laughlin really liked me after that. Anyway, I was riding by his house, and I rode by Mike Keck's house. Now, Mike Keck was my best friend, and I'm out there on my brand new Stingray bike. He's like, hey, Tommy, you got a new bike? Yeah, come on out, check it out. He jumped on, and remember the handlebars where that dip in there with the Stingray? He jumped on, and he sat right there. So we're tooling around, and we ride by Richard Gentry's house. Richard, come on out! Woohoo! Brand new bike. Richard gets on the seat, and I'm standing up now. So we ride by Mike Kewen's house, another friend of mine. Come on out! So he jumps on. Where did he jump on? he jumped on the front wheel and put his toes on the outside of the spoke or the wheel. Before I knew it, we were around the neighborhood and there were 6 of us on my brand new bike. Richard Gentry was the biggest of us all. He was, big guy. So we put him in the driver's seat so he could pedal all of us around. And I remember I got stuck out on the wheel holding the handlebar with my feet out here. And I remember looking down at my tires and they were this, almost flat. With 6 kids riding my brand new bike. Now, was I thinking about, is this thing gonna break? No, because the Schwinn Stingray, those were the bomb-proof, beautiful bikes of the day. Anyway, as we went around, having fun, laughing, riding by Mr. Laughlin's house and smelling the fresh cut grass that he was mowing his lawn with, those were the days I remember most. Okay, so we got everybody off and went home, told my parents about it. They couldn't believe it. Now fast forward a couple years. I'm 14 years old. I want to get a job. I want to get a job. I didn't care what I got a job at. I was 14 years old. I finally could get a work permit. Remember those days? I don't know if they still have work permits now. Do you? Do you still get? Okay, you never hear of them anymore, but I just know that I had to have a work permit at 14. So I rode my bike down Halsey up here in Northeast Portland, Arby's, the Shell gas station. I remember a barber shop. I mean, how could they hire a 14-year-old kid? But I went into this place called Tin Sin. It was a Chinese restaurant, T-I-E-N-T-S-I-N. I didn't know how to say it at the time. I just saw that, well, maybe I can go in there and get a job. Parked my bike, put it up against the railing. I went inside, and the owner, the lady, could barely speak English, but I said, I'm looking for work. Do you have an application? She said, yeah, sure, fill this out. And her husband, with an apron, came in from in the back, and he said, what are you doing here? I'm looking for a job. You got anything for me? Yeah, come on back. And he put a hat and an apron on me, and he stuck me in washing dishes. At $1.65 an hour back then, 14 years old, I thought, oh my God, I've got it. I've made it. Here I am washing dishes. It's hot, it's smelly, all the stuff's coming up. I didn't care. I had my first job. I was making $1.65 an hour. When I first walked in, though, I remember they had this dragon, okay, a statue of this dragon, and he was mean. He was looking at me like, what's this foreigner doing here in my restaurant? I went back out, or I'm washing dishes. I keep looking back out at all the customers coming in, and then that dragon kept catching my eye. What's he doing here? Long story short, that night, I became family with them. They gave me beers at 14 years old. I was okay with that. But as I was sitting there drinking the beer, I noticed that the dragon's eyes and his demeanor went down. He was okay with me then. Maybe it was the beer, I don't know. All right, that was a great experience in my life. Fast forward again, now I'm 19 years old and I'm working out here at the Troutdale Airport. And I'm fueling airplanes. I'm what's called a lineman. I'm on the line service, line crew, where there's about 5 of us and we drive these big 2,000-gallon aviation jet fuel and 100 octane fuel tanks around at 19 years old. I mean, now that I think about it, I was driving a freaking atom bomb. But at that time, I'm up there fueling. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I had the 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift. And I was up on top of the wing fueling these airplanes that we're supposed to do. And a guy named Rudy came up to me. Now, Rudy was a normal customer, but, well, he wasn't normal. He actually had a Learjet in one of the hangars. Now, I don't know if you know what a Learjet is, but it's a private jet that's worth about $2 million that seats about 6 people. Rudy was rude. That's what we call him, and other things too. But Rudy came up to me and he says, I need 10 Romeo Juliet topped off. RJ, that's the call sign, that's his N number. I said, okay, no problem, we'll be over there. And I'm fueling this airplane, I'm smelling, and I don't know if you guys know the smell of gasoline. Gasoline is, but aviation fuel, I kind of liked it. I mean, I didn't stick my head in it and smell it, but it smelled kind of good. And I'm sitting there kind of fueling the airplane, and I unhooked everything, rolled the hose back up, and I'm driving over, and I'm seeing his the Learjet sitting outside. I'm going, okay, cool. I really got to fuel this Learjet. This is so cool. Maybe he's going to give me a ride in it someday. Because a lot of these pilots, they actually did that for us. I don't know. I guess maybe they felt sorry for us or something. So I get over there, and I'm topping off. Top off means there's no more fuel they can put in each wing. Topped off each wing, and Rudy comes over to me. He says, hey, I've got a job for you. Can you actually drive my car up to Chehalis and I'll give you a ride back? I'll fly you back. I'm like, sweet. You bet. He throws me the keys and he says, okay, I'll see you up there in an hour. So I put the truck away and I said, where's the car? He says, oh, it's around back. I'm thinking a Mercedes, I'm thinking BMW, Rolls Royce, and it's a Pacer. I don't know if you remember what a Pacer was, but Pacers were these ugly, I think they only made them for like 2 years or something. They're the ugliest cars in the world. Sorry if you've ever had one. Anyway, I drove the Pacer up, rickety-rackety, Here I'm 19 years old thinking I'm all hot and, anybody, please don't see me in this Pacer. Finally get up to Chehalis, and I park the car, I meet Rudy, and there's not his Learjet. He opens up the hangar, and it's a beautiful biplane. And a biplane is 2 wings that are over each other, and it's an aerobatic plane. And I thought, okay, you're gonna give me a ride in that? He says, yeah, come on, jump in. So we actually had to go out and hand prop it to get it to start. When he finally got it to start, I'm sitting in the back like one of those Snoopy characters with the goggles and right? We take off, and it was the most beautiful but terrifying experiences in my life. We took off. First thing he does is a barrel roll. Then he goes straight up, and we're only flying about 3,000 feet over Chehalis. He decides to come straight down and pull back what I thought was 10 feet off the ground. It's probably 100 feet, but pulls back, and we do what's called an inverted loop. You go up, 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 and then he flips over. He goes around. I don't know if he was out to impress a 19-year-old. I don't know if he had a death wish, but this guy was out to impress me that day. Maybe because I drove that little rickety Pacer up there to do this. Anyway, we finally get back to Troutdale, and we talk, and now to this day, I think Rudy is the bomb. Rudy's, a cool guy. All right. I just gave you 3 different stories there. And I hope what happened was that you guys saw yourself in the moment with each one of those stories. I hope that you were engaged enough to not focus on me about being this speaker up here and my fears. And I know I had a moment there where I was like, a little terrified. But I brought you guys back in the moment, hopefully, in the stories. The way you connect with people in the audience in your stories and speeches is through stories that you've actually lived. Because that's where your nerves come out, that's where your passion comes out, that's where you've lived things that you've already done. Now, if you try to tell a story about somebody else's, you can still do that, somebody else's story, but it's not authentic, it's not you. And you're not going to connect with the audience as well. EAS, easy, ease. Energy, your energy that you have up here, you have plenty of energy. Don't think about, oh, I got to have energy. You have energy, believe me. You just need to portray it from your nerves and get it out there. A, authenticity. Be authentic. Be yourself. But it's also what you tell yourself. So you got to kind of trick yourself. I am powerful. I'm a great speaker. People like me. People want to hear me. People connect with me. People learn from me. You have to tell yourself. You have to believe that. Be authentic when you're up here. And then what's the third? What's the S? Stories. People connect with stories. Movies. When you go and watch a movie, have you ever walked out of a movie? I have. I've walked out of a movie because they're boring. Or I know what the ending is going to be. Hopefully you guys aren't going to walk out on me or anybody that's giving speeches. But stories engage people, have a beginning, a middle, and an end where people are engaged and they see themselves in there through your senses that you give them. So when I was talking about riding down the street and seeing the vapor coming off the street because of fresh rain, the smell of the fresh cut grass, or the look in Mr. Laughlin's eyes with his wrinkles. That gets you guys thinking, not about me, but engaged in what you're doing. So EAS, make it easy. Thank you.